rest assured. And here it's the Maven project. Like for example, how do you create it? Is file, new, um, new, other, and here you choose the Maven project. You click next, skip archetype selection, go next. Here you give the whatever the id and group id and artifact id, and finally once you give that, you just finish it off, and then it creates the project. You have the pom.xml file, and here I have from the Maven repository I have downloaded this. So while I downloaded this, the scope was test. So this is very interesting, when you have the test scope, here for example I had removed it. For example, I save it, and you can see I created so the thing is, when it is in the test is scope is test, it will work. Rest assured will be applicable in test folder, right? But if there is a dummy class in src main java, so if I try to create, right, here you can see I try to create it, and it's showing rest assured, so that means you can use it, right? I can just do rest assured dot given. All the methods are working fine. But the problem is that so yeah, so this is there. But what if I put it as scope is test and save it? You will notice that the error is coming here. The reason is create class, because it's not applicable here. You can't use it over here. So scope means that, right? So I hope you understand it. That is one thing. Now let's go to the another thing, which is maven dot. So for this one, dependencies, under dependencies you have to put this dependency. Okay. And what if so oftentimes you, when you create the project, for example, you want to use a certain java compiler, right? So how do you do it? Through pom. So maven.compiler.source and maven.compiler.target, there are two tags. There you can mention whatever the things you want to mention. Okay. And there's one more thing that you will notice, that once you can see this is the color. Notice the color of this, and just remove this and save, and it should ideally change, but I don't know, yeah, why it's not changing. Yeah, I just saved it. Let's just refresh once, maybe refresh. Okay, so this is the color that we have. Let me just put it and save it. Yeah, you can see that when the test, when the scope is test, then it's a bit less highlighted. Right. And one more thing is that many people think that because initially you can use jars and all that, this is one way of putting the dependencies and everything. Another thing is to add the dependencies in the jar file while we create a normal project, right? If we don't create this project, we can just add jars, and add them to the build path. So the problem with that is when you push your project to the git, all those jars will also go, which adds to the project, project things, like it increases the size of the project, right? But this is not the case with pom.xml. When you send the dependency, when you push the dependencies, only this code gets sent and not the jar files, because of which it's lightweight, and the one who pulls it from his machine, in his machine, can then save it, and then the maven will load and build the project on his end. So that way he can use it over there. So internet is required in this case, right? Okay, so coming to the test, so I just created a RESTful book called API. So we can just go there in the RESTful core API. So here you can go and you can see that there is this API docs. So there's this post, request, get, patch, different kind of requests are there, options. So all these can be automated through rest assured. So the postman, how we send the post request. So I will show you here it's a get booking, right? So I will show you a post request, how to create a post request. So yeah, this is the post request where we are trying to create a booking, right? this is the payload. So what do we need? We need the test method, we need the base URL, we need the base path, we need the application JSON, like what's the content type, and then data, right? All this. So we start with rest is short dot given, right? So here we start with rest is short dot given, and once you see this, if you see this, what does it return? It returns a request specification. Let's see, what does it return? It's request specification, right? This is the return type. So what I'll do is I'll just save it in the, I'll add this in the request specification. So so once you do this, then you know what you have to do is, there are 3 steps. One is building the request, second is hitting the request, and third is to validate the request, right? So this is the base URI. So whatever base URI you want to pass, just ignore this for now. Let's just ignore this. Request specification dot base path is the additional, like you end it with a slash and then you have this path, right? So that you will get. This is a simple API request. We will look at more complex in some time. So request specification dot content type. So here also, returns the request specific. Everything is returning the request specification only, right? Yeah, see here. Okay, and then finally we are passing the body using this, and this also returns a request specification. Okay, and then finally request dot specification dot post, when you do, what does it return? It returns the response of the request. So if you look at the method type, so let's see, post, yeah, this is the response type. So we store it in the response. So response dot, now the thing is, this is the response. So response dot, then we will do the then, right? So here, I mean, this is not the validatable response. So here we are using this interface. It's an interface, you can see. We are using the response dot then. Request specification is also an interface, right? So, and then when you use then it returns, what does it return? It returns a validable return that lets you validate the response. So let's see, like, what does it return? So it returns a validatable response. That's why we have put it over there and equated. And then validatable response dot status score is equal to 200. When I try to run it, I will see something. Let's see. Okay, there's nothing to run, so let me just fail it first, because here for 200 is the expected response. So let's see what happens. Yeah, so you can see that expected status scored 400, but was 200, right? So 200 was expected, so that's why it came. So here what you can do is, I have done request dot specification dot log dot all. So this, what does it return? If you look at it closely, request specification, it returns a request specification. So this is there. So yeah, this is pretty much it. And so now when you try to run it, will log everything that you're sending in. See, all the things are getting logged. This is the path that we're doing, this is the URI that we're trying to hit, this is the content type. So this is a simple request we can automate in this way. So you can also have a look and at these things. So just remember that first we will build the request using rest short dot given. After that we will pass all this base URI, build path, base path, content type, body, according to whatever the API is, and then we can automate it. Thank you.